Shoot now, he sneered. She didn't blink. The dusty road hummed. A broken watch in her palm, an empty wallet in her pack. One breath. One round. When the SEAL learned who Joyce Trace really was, it was already too late. The road in was more grit than asphalt. Wind drew lines across the flats as if the land kept notes on everyone who passed. Joyce Trace parked where the dirt turned white and crusted. A range flag cracked in the breeze. The place smelled like oil, hot brass, and baked stone. She sat a moment. The truck door stuck. She lifted, then shoved it open with her thigh. A dry clack. The door sighed. She stepped down and felt the dust give. It took her weight and tried to keep it, like a hand that never learned to let go. Her watch had died 3 nights ago. Its crystal was spidered, one crack like a frozen river. It had been her father's. Or maybe a promise she kept pretending was a tool. She wound it out of habit, nothing. She held it to her ear, no tick. Silence can be louder than shots. The compound sprawled low. Shipping containers. A rusting tower. Concrete splashed with old paint and newer patches. She signed papers with a dull pen. The clipboard had scars. A sergeant took the pages and glanced at her kit. He nodded, not friendly. Not unfriendly. Just measuring. She walked to the line. Targets slept in the heat. A mirage wavered over the far berm. People watched like crows on a fence, bored, curious, waiting for something shiny. Among them, a tall man in worn tan. He wore the kind of grin that assumes a winner. Navy patch, scar near the jaw, light eyes that didn't settle. He leaned on the rail and spoke to no one in particular. Shoot now, sweetheart. Before the wind grows teeth, heads turned. A few quiet chuckles. Not cruel, not kind. The sound people make when they want to be on the side that laughs. Joyce placed her case on the bench. The latches had music she liked. Left then right. A soft pop. The lid lifted. Inside, the rifle lay like a sentence that had taken years to write. Simple stock. Long barrel, no gloss. She checked the crown. Wiped the glass with a breath and a cloth. Dipped a finger in a tiny tin of grease. The work steadied her blood. She did not look at the man. She looked at the air. The heat, the ripples. She watched a flag on the far post give away a secret, then take it back. The wind spoke without words. She listened. She built the shot in her head. Distance, drop, drift. The numbers were not numbers anymore. They were a feeling. A map across her hands. Her wallet lay in the bottom of her pack, thin. It had been fatter once. Then tuition. Then rent, then ammo, then days that tasted like metal and cheap coffee. She did not count the bills. Counting made you think about quitting. Any time, the SEAL said, and he smiled. Shoot now, she slid into prone. The mat was sun-hot through her elbows. The buttstock found the bruise she carried from practice. Familiar ache, good ache, she breathed. Exhaled. Let the air run out until the bones felt lighter. The scope ringed the world and made it small. The target's black heart floated like a raft in white water. Around her, boots shuffled. Someone coughed. The wind paused, then turned its face. She waited. The SEAL snorted. Blink and it'll pass you by. She didn't blink. She set her finger on the curved metal. Found the wall. Pressure grew the way dawn grows. No hurry, no drag. The breeze ticked left. The mirage flattened. She moved a hair. Less than a thought. The trigger broke. The shot rode the heat toward the berm. The steel rang. Then a second bell answered from somewhere it shouldn't have. And the crowd gasped as a shadow moved where no target had been a moment before. No one moved for a heartbeat. Then voices tightened fast. The range officer's hand went up. Hold, heads jerked toward the tower. The second bell was a loose plate. A prank left from yesterday's scenario, someone muttered. The kind of mistake that becomes a story if no one bleeds. Her round had drilled the center. The proper plate, evidence swung clean on its chain. The wrong bell had just chosen to speak at the same time. Joyce kept the rifle in her shoulder. Muzzle downrange. The old rules living in her bones. Safety first, ego last. The SEAL clicked his tongue. Lucky echo. He sounded bored. Men like him hide surprises in boredom. He meant her to bite. She didn't bite. She cleared the chamber. Brass slid warm across her knuckles. She placed the casing on the bench and watched it cool. The shell dimmed like an ember going soft. A memory walked in, quiet as dust. Her father by the river in winter. A thermos that squeaked. The watch in his palm. You won't hear it tick unless you stop breathing, he had said. Everything worth hearing requires that. The watch had ticked then. It kept time for almost everything except the part where he left. The range reopened. Rolling drills, moving steel, silhouette plates that darted behind plywood windows. Joyce studied the rhythms. A target is a person until you shoot it. Then it's only steel again. That line matters.
Keep it alive.
Keep it simple. By late light, a pairing roster went up. Letters under glass. Names stuck with tape because the printer choked on dust. She walked over with the rest. Heat slumped into evening. The smell of hot tires, faded sunscreen, someone's cut finger, metallic sweetness. Her name sat next to his. Trace, Brannigan, the seal, of course. The program wanted Sparks to either catch or die. No smoke allowed tomorrow. He read the sheet and laughed. Good, I'll keep you alive. He said it like he was kind. He said it like a gift he could take back. She said nothing. He disliked that, and then he liked disliking it, and then he smiled like he'd found a low hill to stand on. They met under a dying sun to plan. The mock town was a mile out. Low blocks, stairs, alleys, shadows that would trap you if you let them. She unrolled a map. He folded it in half and used his forearm as a straight edge. Fast, he said. We move at last light. Window of 3 minutes before patrols reset. I'll spot, you shoot, she shook her head. Your eyes are faster. Mine are steadier, you move. I anchor, he shrugged. We'll see. He said it as if time was a thing he could tell what to do. She looked past him. A dusty road ran into the mock town and then out of it again, as if it didn't trust walls. A dog trotted along the shoulder and vanished behind a forklift. Somewhere a train spoke in its sleep. He flipped a coin and let it flash. The coin landed on the map, then slid into her empty wallet when he nudged it with a finger. For luck, he said. Buy a clue if they're on sale. She closed the wallet. It felt heavier than the coin deserved. Luck is loud, she said. It gets you noticed, his grin cut. Shoot now, Trace, on a joke he kept milking. He liked that it bothered people. He liked measuring the size of the silence after. She cleaned her rifle until night made edges soft. The watch lay beside the bolt. She pressed the crown. Nothing. She had learned to stop asking broken things for more time. Past midnight, sirens warbled low and wrong. Not exercise tones, real ones. The compound lights went sharp. Radios woke and spat names in grid squares. The air changed. It had a taste. Joyce stood with her pack half-zipped. A voice barked from the dark. Trace Brannigan now. She followed the command post light. Not running, not slow. Her hands light on the straps. The major pointed at a live feed. A training team in the mock town had tripped a real visitor. Not a role player. A trespasser. He had a pack. Not big, big enough. The town's alleys had teeth now. You too, the major said. Inner cordon. Eyes in glass. Non-permissive until we say, copy? Copy! Brannigan snapped. Joyce nodded. Go, the major said. They went, and when they reached the first low roof and Joyce pressed her cheek to warm concrete, she saw two glints in opposite windows. The first was the trespasser's phone. The second was not a phone at all. It was too steady, too patient, a lens, not a screen. Slight shimmer, a breath behind glass, a predator's eye without eyebrows. She marked it without pointing. She said, left of the blue door, third pane up. Brannigan panned, his jaw set. Copy. They lay parallel, close enough to share breath if they were different people. The town hummed. A generator stuttered. A radio somewhere made the sound of a secret clearing its throat. Wind skimmed dust off the parapet and laid it on their sleeves. 2 problems, he said. Pac-Man watcher. 3, she said. Us. She meant their noise, their scent, their heat. She meant the way plans failed at first touch. He liked that. Not the fear. The count, she replaced her dope card with a blank index card. The old numbers were for old wins. The night had new math. She wrote a slant, a hold, a note, glass will lie. She taped the broken watch crystal over the corner of the card. It caught ambient light and threw a faint bite. She shifted it. The bite moved. The lens across the street twitched in answer. Good. The watcher noticed bright crumbs. Decoy, she whispered. Cute, he said. Not cute. Human. She breathed softer. Whoever that is will always want to know what glints. He nodded. You shoot or I shoot? You move, she said. I anchor. She repeated it until it fit. He almost argued. Then the trespasser stumbled into Moonwash. A young guy. Hoodie. That pack clamped to him like a handsy child. He glanced back and banged his shin. He sat and hissed. The moment had the flavor of someone who did not know the size of the hole he stood near. "On me," Brannigan said. He slid back low and quick to contour the staircase and vanish into an alley mouth. For a big man, he could be quiet. He left warmth on the roof in the shape of his shoulders. The air filled it until nothing was where he had been. Joyce adjusted. The glass eye window stayed hungry. The angle was poor. Her bullet would sing through 2 panes, then a room, then a prayer. Unclean. Unkind. If she wanted it, she'd wait until hunger moved closer to the frame. Hunger always does. The radio filtered the Major's voice. Inner cordon static. Patrol's tight. Do not escalate. Static wanted to be a 4th problem. She told it no. Down below, Brannigan ghosted through an alley. He checked corners like he'd grown up inside them. He paused where a light pooled. He became part shadow, part warning. His hand came up. 2 fingers. She read the sign hold. He hated giving that sign. She felt the hate reach her like warmth. She looked at the broken watch. The crack traced a river that had never found the ocean. She pressed the crown again. Still nothing. She set it by the card so the fractured glass stood over the neat handwriting like a crooked halo. The lens across the way blinked, not a camera blink, human, dry eye, wet eye. The blink of someone who refuses to cry even when salt might help. She whispered, "I see you." The phone glint moved. The trespasser lifted his arm. He aimed it at himself, then at the street, then at the dark. He was filming his fear so someone would believe him tomorrow. That made him more real. That made him dangerous. Fear invents detonators where there are none and forgets them where there are. Joyce touched the bolt. A thought, no sound. The rifle felt like a quiet animal. She fed it around and it purred against her collarbone. Brannigan's whisper rose through the net. "On him now." "Glass," she said. "Forget the watcher." Shoot now, he loved saying it. He loved the way urgency tasted in his mouth. But something below the taste had shifted. There was a thread of trust laced into the dare. A thin, reluctant thread. She lined the crosshair just left of the phone's edge. She would break it without breaking skin, scare the kid inward, away from alleys that contained teeth, be the wind that turns a leaf before a tire crushes it. The lens watcher twitched. The barrel angle changed a breath. The breath belonged to hands that had done this before. Joyce's finger found the wall again. She pressed. The trigger took it and vanished under it. The rifle told the night a secret. The phone shattered into starlight. The kid yelped, flung both hands up, and scrambled into the open where patrols could claim him alive. "Nice," Brannigan said, and there was no grin in it. Trace, the watcher. She shifted right and saw that the watcher was not alone. A second shadow leaned into the room behind the lens. The first shadow handed the second a small metal thing wedded to a wire. The wire led to the pack she had just saved from teeth. "Control," she whispered. "We have a line." "Negative debt," the Major said. "No ID, do not escalate." "Then you escalate," Brannigan muttered. She heard boots. He was already moving up the interior stairwell toward that window, planning to cut the wire with his own blade. Joyce breathed. In. Out. She scanned for a better angle. All she needed was a sliver of wrist. The second shadow's fingers fluttered with the lighter. The first shadow pulled the wire taut. Her crosshair kissed that wire, thin as a hair in moonlight. Impossible. She tightened. The wire thrummed. The lighter sparked. The door behind her roof groaned, old hinges crying under weight, and a third shadow stepped out onto her rooftop with a silenced carbine pointing at her spine. The sound was wrong in the dark. Not loud, thick, a cough with edges. The muzzle hung in the air like an accusation. Joyce did not turn. Turning wastes the small mercy of not knowing which eye the bullet plans to leave through. She let the rifle settle on the parapet and slid her right hand open. Palms up. She felt the rooftop visitor watch the tendons move under her skin. Some people forget to see hands. This one didn't. "Drop it," a voice said. Young, eager to sound old. A boy who borrowed age and wanted to keep it. She kept the rifle on the wall. She placed her left hand where he could see it. She lifted the broken watch with 2 fingers. Its cracked face caught a scrap of starlight and tossed it onto the vent pipe. The boy's eyes, if they were eyes, would go a hair to the right. People track glints. "It's old, don't," he said. More air rose in his word than force. He had never said don't to someone who could answer with more than a shrug. On net, Brannigan hissed. Trace? Busy, she breathed. Say the word. No words, she breathed, because words shove air in the wrong directions. The rooftop door yawned a fraction more. A wedge of hallway light kissed the boy's shoes. They were new. The laces were clean. He had dressed for the person he wanted to be when he told the story later. Is that your wire? She asked. Shut up, he said, but not like he meant it. He meant, I don't know what to say. You don't want to be the reason for a name carved into stone, she said. Stone does not care about your video. He flinched. The silencer dipped. It came back up on a line not as true as before. She moved the watch. The fractured glass threw a different bite. The bite nibbled the boy's focus. She heard the wind like breath across a bottle's mouth. She curled 2 fingers under her rifle's sling. The sling had a loop. The loop had a memory of reach. She had made it do this once with a coyote and a fence line and a night that smelled like rain. Put your gun down, he said. Shoot now. He said it like he'd heard someone cool say it and wanted to try it on. She smiled. She knew he couldn't see the smile. She let it be for her. In the window across the alley, the wire went taut again. A hand lifted the lighter. The flame found wick. The pack yawned. Brannigan reached the 2nd floor landing. She could feel him there like an engine humming under a hood. He was too far to stop the wire, but close enough to meet a body. Bad math. Joyce lifted the watch higher. The boy's barrel followed the bright chip in the glass as if it were a fly at the corner of his sight. She yanked the sling loop with her right hand. Leather snapped. The sling leapt off the stock and whipped backward over her shoulder like a lazy snake, then darted fierce, looped the silencer's snout, and jerked it up into the stars. The boy fired. The silencer coughed sky. Concrete dust fell like dry snow. She rolled right, spine flat, elbow finding the mat, hips hinged. The rifle slid smooth into her shoulder and the sight caught the wire mid-hum. She squeezed. The wire spit apart. The flame kissed air and died on its own impatience. The pack didn't. It sat like a dog told to wait. Across the room, the first shadow swore. The second shadow slapped the lighter in rage and fear and found neither could be gripped. The boy tried to yank his muzzle down through the sling. It stuck, his shoulder wrenched. Pain explained something to him his mentors had forgotten to teach. Gun on the ground, she said. Simple words. No argument inside them. He dropped. The carbine thudded. The sling still cinched its throat. The barrel peered at the moon like it had always wanted to breathe clean air. Below, Brannigan broke through a flimsy door and met the first shadow with his shoulder. The room spat furniture. The second shadow swung the lighter at his face and missed by the exact width of regret. Brannigan took control fast and unkind. The wire went slack across the floor. He said something short that sounded like a prayer but contained more instructions than mercy. The boy on Joyce's roof tried to flee back into the stairwell. She hooked her boot around the sling and reeled the carbine toward her like a fish. The boy made a choice. He took out a knife. It had a new shine and old shape. Bad fit for a hand that shook. Toss it, she said. He hesitated. New men love edges. They think the blade invents courage. Toss it, she said again, and this time she put her mother's voice on the end of the word. It was a voice that made plants grow straight. He tossed it. It scraped on concrete and lay there feeling ashamed. Patrols flowed into the block below. Radios chattered up a ladder of ranks. The major's voice cut in clear now. Inner cordon status. Wire cut, Joyce said. Device secure. 1 rooftop contact, juvenile. Brannigan's breath hit the net like someone opening a door on a hot car. 2 in custody. 1 more room, the boy sobbed once. Not from fear. From relief. Relief can bruise. Hands behind your head, Joyce said. He obeyed. He did not know what to do with his eyes. A noise rose from the alley beyond the next roof. A foot on metal. A rung groaning. She pivoted and found a new shape on the fire escape. Broad, climbing fast. Not patrol. Not friend. The figure lifted a compact tube and popped a flashbang underhand like a pitcher who hides arrogance in his knuckles. The grenade arced. It spun. It bloomed. And white ate the rooftop. Joyce let the flashbang eat air between her palms. She had cupped thunder once before. Timing was everything. She dropped it back over the parapet into empty space and flicked her head to the left, so the wash bit a smaller piece of her night. It cooked in the alley. Light flowered. Sound punched. Her teeth hummed a low, embarrassed note. The boy screamed like he'd found himself again. Joyce blinked twice the way her coach had taught her when she was 19. and the world wanted to be a flat plate. The rooftop snapped back into depth. Edges returned to things that needed them. She thanked whoever invented corners. The intruder on the fire escape recovered faster than a decent person might. He came over the top rail with his shoulders already squared toward murder. His pistol had a long throat. His eyes were not interested in negotiation. Joyce's bolt-bound. A dry hitch. The rifle coughed apology and refused. She could feel Brannigan inside the building below like a hammer inside a wall. He would come up, but not now. Not with the wire still telling him ghost stories. The boy crouched and clawed for his dropped knife. Joyce kicked it over the edge without looking. Somewhere in the dark, a cat earned a new nightmare. She slammed the bolt. It stuck. The broken watch sat by her elbow, its face a map she had never learned to read properly. She pressed the crown, not for time but for strength. The crown snapped off in her fingers. A tiny spring flicked into her palm, slick with old oil and the last of its stubborn hope. "Okay," she whispered to the rifle. "Okay." The intruder moved. She moved faster. The sling lay snared around the silencer, a leather snake that wanted more. She yanked it hard and sideways. The sling freed, whipped back, and she caught the loop with 2 fingers like it belonged to her hand. She flung the loop. It circled the intruder's wrist mid-aim. She dropped her hips and pulled low. The pistol's throat jumped and spat at the sky. He swore in a language that had no word for regret. He lunged forward, yanking against the loop, and she let go so his weight dragged him 2 steps farther than his feet meant. He stumbled. She rose. The bolt shifted a whisper. She slid the watch spring against the locking lug and twisted. The spring bent and surrendered a fraction of give. The pistol came back down with new spite. She felt the barrel's shadow on her cheeks. She heard the boy's breath turn to paper. She slid the bolt forward with her left hand while her right hand steadied the stock with a grip that remembered winter. The bolt locked. The rifle came back alive. "Trace!" Brannigan, closer now, breathless and happy about it. She didn't answer. She put sight on sternum. It was a big sternum. It was a doctrine all by itself. She made a small correction for range from a roof to a man who carried stubbornness like a coat. She pressed. The trigger thanked her. The shot went in where shirts whisper when you take them off. The intruder folded around his own surprise and dropped his pistol. It skittered and flashed and fell down the fire escape stairs like a toy that had decided to be free. He clawed at emptiness that could not be slowed. She watched his hands. They were better than his heart. "Clear," she said, and then shook her head. "No, one more." Because on the far parapet a silhouette rose. Broad again. A twin or a friend. This one wore night like a passport. He lifted something that wasn't a gun. A radio, a trigger. It glowed a faint dumb green. The kind of glow that doesn't know it should be ashamed. "On your 6. Brannigan roared from the stairwell mouth, and his boots made the sound of someone who refused to file paperwork later. Joyce rotated. The glow hung in the silhouette's fist like a prayer someone miswrote. If it spoke, people would become ribbons, the kind children tie to trees and forget until the wind scolds them. She exhaled and let her heartbeat step to the side. The rifle kissed her cheek. She knew the weight of the trigger now, down to the atom that didn't like work. She pressed. The green became shards of smaller, less confident green. The silhouette swore and shook its hand. The detonator died like a bad idea under sunlight. "Device cold," she said, but her voice thinned, because the intruder she had shot wasn't done being a lesson. He had one more move, and he used it. He shoved a knuckle into a pocket and pulled a second tube, thin as a cheap pen, mean as a needle. He jammed it toward his own throat and closed his eyes, ready to vanish into sleep and silence and legal fog. "Don't," she said, but he had already decided he wanted out more than he wanted anything else. Brannigan hit him like a bookcase falling. The pen flew. It clicked under the boy's knee. The boy yelped and hopped. Brannigan pinned the intruder and cuffed his hands with plastic that sounded like a zippered mouth. Sirens converged. Floods came on. A helicopter beat the wind into a flat shape above them. Voices stacked. Orders braided. The rooftop filled with adults who had woken up ready to be responsible. Joyce picked up the broken crown of her watch. It sat in her palm like a tooth. She didn't know what would hurt more, throwing it away or keeping it. Brannigan looked at her with a new face. Not soft, not sorry, just stripped. He said, "You saved a kid, and me," she said. "We saved a wire." He nodded. "You were right to wait." He glanced at her rifle. But when you had to, then I shot, she said. He smiled and didn't show teeth. Shoot now, huh? In the alley, an engine growled that wasn't ours. A truck that had no sticker.
Headlights off.
Moving too careful. A shape leaned out with something on its shoulder that had a hungry mouth. The boy pointed with both hands. There! He screamed. And somewhere far off, a clock that had been dead a long time ticked once. They both heard it. They both refused to believe it mattered. One tick is just a body twitching in a dream. But bodies turn whole wars with such twitches. The truck nosed forward. The thing on its shoulder drank moonlight and turned it into aim. The rooftop offered no cover in that direction but bad choices. The patrols below scrambled, each man sure he was the one supposed to fix this fast. Joyce shoved the boy flat. Cheek to concrete, she said. He pressed his whole life into the grit and held his breath like someone who had learned to obey. Brannigan scanned for an angle. He found none polite. He swore and lifted his carbine, but the range would make his rounds into advice rather than law. The watch lay upside down. The cracked crystal faced the sky. The tick had no friend. She lifted it. She held it to her ear. Nothing. She wanted to laugh at herself for wanting magic from a thing that only ever told truth. Then she saw the spring she'd bent. It had lodged cock-like in the bolt. A snippet of steel she had stolen from time had unlocked the rifle in the night. She knew what to do with that tiny lie. Spot me, she said. Brannigan dropped behind her without a word. He called wind. He called drop. He called a rhythm she recognized as his own heartbeat surrendered to hers. 50 left. Half mil low now. The truck's gunner swiveled. He found them. He liked finding. He enjoyed the click that meant a mouth was about to open. Joyce laid the watch on the parapet so the broken glass would catch the gunner's eye a half-second before her muzzle did. Humans are always a half-second cheaper than their weapons. The sliver of moon bit the crystal. The crystal bit back and threw a gleam into the gunner's face, bright as a tiny slap. He blinked. She pressed. The round crossed the road and unstitched the gunner's arrogance from his shoulder. Metal clanked. The hungry mouth looked at its own feet and became shy. Driver, Brannigan called. Left tire. On, she said. Another round. The tire forgot how to be a circle. The truck slumped into the ditch like a man who would pretend it was a plan. Sirens swarmed. Hands grabbed. Voices reported. The night put away its knives and counted everyone twice. The boy rolled to his back and stared at stars as if they had done this for him on purpose. Tears leaked out and tried to be discreet. He said, I didn't know. I swear I didn't. I know, Joyce said. She didn't pat his shoulder. Kindness is a blade, too, if you don't hold it right. Brannigan stood and watched the road with the face of a stone that has put up with the sea too long. You were wrong about one thing, he said. Which? Luck, she almost laughed. What about it? It's not loud. It's the quiet that stays put long enough for skill to arrive. She pocketed the broken crown. The watch looked naked without it. Luck is a mirror. People shout at their own faces. A medic jogged over. He checked the boy's pulse. He checked Joyce's hands and frowned at the bent spring embedded in grease. What did you do? Borrowed time, she said. He didn't get the joke. He handed her a wet wipe. It felt like an apology from the world for what it had asked her to touch. The major climbed the stairs, each step a statement. He took in the roof. The loose sling, the boy, the intruder's cuffs, the dead detonator, the truck in the ditch. His eyes landed on Joyce last. They rested there like a tired bird. Good work, he said. No speeches, just that. It was enough. Brannigan packed his carbine with care he had not shown it before. He looked over. Tomorrow you anchor, he said. I move. Tomorrow, she said. The word didn't taste like doubt anymore. They walked back across the dusty roof. Dust took their prints and tried to keep them for itself. The wind argued and erased most of the heel marks. It left the toes pointed forward. She liked that. At the truck, Joyce opened her pack. She pulled out her wallet and counted even though she hated counting. The coin he'd shoved in sat on top like it knew it had arrived at a small point in its life. She flicked it back at him. For luck? He asked. For timing, she said. Spend it when you're tempted to rush. He pocketed it and nodded like a man who finally knows where to put a thing. The watch sat in her palm. Crack like a river, time asleep inside. She put it to her ear. Nothing. She smiled anyway. She had learned something tonight. You can live without the tick if you know the shape of silence. A phone buzzed. Unknown number on a cheap screen. She answered because sometimes you need to let the next page turn itself. Ms. Trace? A voice said. It sounded like gravel made polite. We saw your work. Which part? The part where you didn't shoot. And the part where you did. She glanced at Brannigan. He was watching her watch. He shrugged. He had decided to trust the coin in his pocket more than his old bite. What do you want? She asked the voice. A contract, the voice said. Urban overwatch, quiet, pay fair. Terms clean. Why me? A pause. Then because when a man jeered, you didn't rush. And when a boy cried, you didn't console. You fixed the wire. A breath. Also because you made a seal slow down.